Hello, everybody. Welcome to the January 2015 edition of Third Tuesday Conversation. I'm Danica Olson, and I'm glad that you have joined us today for a conversation with Nancy Going and Rollie Martinson. Today, our topic, as you know because you signed up, is about vibrant faith. And so we're glad to have the two of you with us today.
Thanks, Danica. It's good for us both to be able to be here.
Great.
Hello, good to be here.
Perfect. Just want to remind people, if it's been a while, you can join the conversation by typing your question into the right-hand side of the box on the right-hand side of your screen, and I'll pass them along to Rollie and Nancy a bit later in our call. So before we jump in, Nancy and Rollie, would you take turns, whichever wants to go first, and tell everybody listening who might not have had the pleasure of meeting you before, a bit about yourself, what you do when you're not doing all things vibrant faith.
Oh, that's a great question too, Danica. So this is Nancy. I guess you could probably tell that from the voice. But yeah, and I have been doing youth ministry for a long time, so that's my love and my passion, and I'm excited to get to be doing it now in this whole new setting related to vibrant faith. And these days, what I do when I'm not doing this is we went from 0 grandkids 4 years ago to 5 in 4 years.
Oh my gosh.
So I know. So my daughter had twins. That really kind of helped with
that does help the number.
the population grow fast. So we're just doing this grandparent thing like out of nowhere, and it's lots of fun. But we're still kind of getting used to that, what that means for our lives. So yeah.
Cool.
Yes, I've been at youth ministry for quite a while as well as Nancy. Served in several parishes as a youth worker before I went to seminary, then as a pastor for 10 years in California, Southern California and North Dakota. Worked with young people in a variety of ways. Spent then 37 years at Luther Seminary in a variety of roles, one of which was to develop the Center for Children, Youth, and Family Ministry there, which worked at developing research in matters related to young people, their lives, their faith, as well as developing master's programs and a doctoral program that enabled a person to do further study in youth ministry. This latest period of time, I'm the research partner on the team at Vibrant Faith, which means that I have the great opportunity to spend time with a variety of folks on the team, but most particularly Nancy and John Roberto, in developing a new capacity to do research on the ground around very real challenges and opportunities that present themselves to faith-based institutions such as colleges and universities, congregations, and judicatories. I've been married for over 50 years, so it's a great time for Sherry and me to continue our relationship with one another. We have 9 grandkids, 8 of whom are close to us, so I have the good pleasure of spending considerable amount of time with them, and am an avid classical car collector, so I'm in the midst of refurbishing a 1956 Ford Thunderbird.
Nice. I'll take a ride when you're finished.
You got it. I'll come over.
Perfect.
You got it. Come over.
Awesome. Well, we obviously invited you here today because we are excited about what you're up to at Vibrant Faith. And so we're wondering if you'd just tell us a little bit about the new look and the new trajectory of Vibrant Faith.
Yeah, I'd be really happy to do that. So I came on this year, took over for Paul Hill as the executive director, and we just were at this turning point of having a sense that it was just time for a refurbishing of the organization based on just the huge number of changes in the church. And so that caused us to just drop back and look at everything we were doing and to say, what is it that we need to be focusing on to help the church most profoundly right now in this day and age? And pretty much at the same time we were asking those questions, Rollie, he and I had a conversation, and he started talking about the things he was discovering about the value of action research for creating real change in institutions, in organizations. And so we just started having that discussion about, could vibrant faith actually return to its original roots, which was to be a research organization, and could we kind of develop this new arm that would allow us to engage churches around the things that we've known for a long time really make a difference, but to help them make the kind of changes in their systems and in how they go about doing things, that they actually are reflecting the things that we know from research actually produce a vibrant faith.
Cool.
So that's, kind of where we began the process, and just gave ourselves a year to really take things apart and put them all back together again. We feel really, really honored that we're still standing. There are a lot of little organizations like this that have not made it through the tough times that the church is all going through, and we feel really honored that that God has given us the resources to be able to refocus like this and put our attention on this new day. So that kind of has two really big nodes of work that we think are unique about right now in the life of the church, and one is we have spent a lot of time making systems that were for another generation, trying to make those systems continue to work for this generation. And we really believe that it's time to really kind of be looking at those systems very carefully and creating new systems for how faith is being formed. We know how faith gets formed, but we're just talking about the delivery systems for that. And then secondly, we think that this whole digital world is really changing everything. And most churches have been pretty afraid of that. And I don't know about you guys, but I tend to read a lot of stuff that's mostly negative about how we approach the digital world. And there's a lot of bad stuff. There is a lot of bad stuff, and a lot of stuff to be afraid of, and a lot of superficiality and ways that people are fake and all those kinds of things. But the bottom line is, this is the world that children are growing up in.
Yep.
And they grow up used to having access in their hands. And that's the world that we need to engage them in and through. And we need to have adults who are able to do that. So that's kind of the two places that we're really digging in with what it looks like to imagine faith formation today.
Cool. When you say that about kids growing up in that world, it made me think, my friend posted on Facebook yesterday, or at least I thought it was her, of her youngest son with lipstick all over his face. And we come to find out that actually her second grader posted the picture of their 3-year-old with the lipstick. And so she talked about second grader posting on Facebook, a developmental milestone. So it's true. It's not something we can get away from.
Yeah, and it's just it's something we have to claim for the sake of the gospel, and start figuring out how to use it and use it well, and know that that God is in this too, and we just have to look for the Spirit's promptings and be willing to follow that.
Yeah, great.
So,
can you say more about this action research? What exactly is action research, and why does Vibrant Faith? Why are you so pumped about it?
That's a great question, and I'm going to have Rollie answer it because he's our guy.
Great.
I would say that the power and my interest in action research comes from two deep convictions. The first is theological, that in Jesus Christ, God got loose in the world, a world that God had in fact created, and consequently, action research starts deeply engaging, listening to, observing, becoming a part of encountering what is. So rather than a quick read or diagnosis of what one sees in front of one, or rather than continuing to do what one has done forever and ever, action research begins with a deep entering into and reading what is on the basis of a particular theological commitment, that is, that God is out there ahead of us. A second deep commitment or conviction that informs it for me is that in listening and respecting what is, one opens up the particular institution or group or person with whom one's working to as accurate and thorough an understanding of what is as possible. And if one's going to get somewhere, one has to start with one's feet on the ground in the real world in which one's doing ministry, or the real world in which one's working. And at the same time that one does that, standing in that place and starting with that real world, one usually discovers that there are in those situations that many times have become depleted and developed a sense of hopelessness, way more resources, energy, and expertise than one thought was there. So first of all, it's an approach to life and ministry that grows out of a deep theological understanding, that is who God is and what God is up to, and a deep strategic understanding, and that is how to work with people, groups of people, in terms of unleashing their best capacities, their strengths, and so forth. As a process, it tends to work in an arc of steps that go something like this. One begins by, together with whomever is expressing a sense of need or an idea, one begins by entering into that need, entering into that idea in a thoughtful, open, reflective way. So it begins with a deep thinking about and multi-discipline discovery of what is. On the basis of what is, one then takes a look at one's basic convictions and beliefs, one's fundamental understandings of one's mission, and together with that deep understanding of what one has discovered and one's sense of what God is leading one to be doing, one begins to formulate plans that are realistic, that grow out of the mission, grow out of one's understanding of what God is calling one to do, and grow out of an honest and accurate depiction or understanding of what one has to work with. So research drawn and reality drawn through mission to strategic implementation processes. One makes then good, thoughtful plans, and as one makes those good, thoughtful plans, one may discover that one needs more resources. And then, so one looks around and asks, what are those particular ideas, what are those particular relationships, what are those particular procedures, materials, and so forth that one might need to bring into this particular situation to enrich the possibilities, to enhance the possibilities of effective implementation of what one's doing. As one continues to do this, one always keeps asking the accountability question, the effectiveness question. One finishes a particular aspect of it and asks, where were the strengths, where were the weaknesses, what worked, what do we want to affirm, what didn't work. And on the basis of that, one revisits one's plans, and one continues these cycles of thoughtful, innovative planning and developing of new approaches that are always informed by thoughtful, reflective assessment.
Yeah, cool. Are you working with congregations on this currently, or how is this being lived out through Vibrant Faith right now?
We have presently five research projects or research partners with whom we're working. One of those is a Lutheran college. Two of them are congregations, one a Lutheran congregation, one a congregational congregation that is a UCC congregation. And then we're working with two synods, the New Jersey Synod Youth Ministry people and the New Jersey, and that's Lutheran, the New Jersey Synod of the Episcopal, the New Jersey Diocese of the Episcopal Church, doing five very different, tailored to the situation projects.
Cool. And are you, I mean, I hope that through research you're learning new things. Has there been one sort of thread that you've gleaned from these five that are going on right now? One thing that it's a takeaway, or are they all just so different that it's too early to tell? Or
that's a great question. I don't know that we've been at it long enough to factor analyze what we're learning in all of them and the different stages of all of them and what some of the threads may be. But I can cite some learnings in each of them that might afford themselves ultimately to such a thematic coming together of learnings. So, for example, the one we've been at the longest, working with Concordia College in Moorhead on a project of worship, faith, and spiritual practices. We began with the presenting problem of the decline, as in other colleges across the country, Lutheran Christian colleges across the country, the decline in chapel attendance, and the worry on the part of campus ministry, of administration, even faculty, some students and parents, that this meant that Concordia students were less interested in the faith, were not practicing the faith, and that the college wasn't being supportive of the faith journey and the faith development of the students. So what we did was we started a thoroughgoing quantitative and qualitative assessment of the worship, faith, and spiritual practices of the students on campus, and discovered rather, even though only about 6 to 8% of the students regularly attend chapel, upwards of 95 to 98% of the students sometime during the course of a week have a significant discussion and opportunity to be considering and reflecting upon questions, spiritual questions like, do I make a difference? What does it mean to make a difference in the world? Does my major and the direction my life is taking have meaning? And about half those students are praying about that, bringing that into conversation in regard to, so what is God up to in the world? We discovered, for example, that over 70% of them regularly pray alone and pray together. We discovered that there are a variety of groups on campus doing Bible studies, doing seminars, that 40% of the students are engaged in some kind of service learning, mission trips, and in so doing develop community and pray and so forth. We come out of that study discovering that it would be nearly impossible for a student at Concordia College to not at some point in the course of a week to engage conversation and experience of God's presence and activity on campus.
Cool. That's good. I mean, that's good learnings that, and also a great understanding for a college to understand that there's multiple touch points. It's not just about butts in the seats.
And Danica, just to jump in here, don't you think that that those learnings are really applicable then to churches as well?
Totally.
So our job as Vibrant Faith then is to glean from what happens in these research projects, and to then take the wonderings into other contexts and say, so maybe just the way kids aren't in chapel, that might be a similar way to the way people in the congregation aren't necessarily in worship on Sunday.
Yep.
But does that mean that they're not, that their faith isn't vibrant, and that we can't engage them in and around their faith and help their spiritual formation still?
Yeah.
We tend to sometimes correlate worship attendance with a vibrant faith. And it looks like for some people it's a broader experience.
Right, right.
Let me jump in, and I think Nancy's right on. What the metaphor that's emerging at Concordia is a multidimensional culture of faith and spiritual practice with many entree points or entry points. The operative word here is an enriched culture where there's a multitude of opportunities and support systems for faith. I just think of looking at a congregation as a body of Christ, a faith community, a culture of faith formation in which there are incredibly interesting possibilities for, let's say, senior high people. One of the most difficult dimensions of ministry these days in congregations, one of the most difficult seasons of life, is to work with students, with young people post-confirmation. So let's imagine for a moment that one were to think about the multiple entry points for senior hires in terms of texting, in terms of mentor relationships, in terms of peer relationships, in terms of family relationships, in terms of mission trips, etc. It's a whole other way to think about enriching the world of a 16-year-old young woman than saying how many people are showing up for this particular activity that is just for senior hires, such as a Bible study or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. It's important. I mean, that's exactly where we're at. So it's good that there is an institution that's jumping on board with or putting language to what those of us in congregations have known for a bit, and to have these conversations as a part of a larger conversation in the church and in our culture.
We'll know more about this soon. We're working with a medium-sized congregation, neighborhood congregation, which is very concerned about their ministry with those in the first third of life, and have noticed that the lifestyle of families, the lifestyle of elementary kids, of middle schoolers and senior hires, such that Sunday school and their traditional gathering of kids on Wednesday nights for certain types of activities and so on, it just isn't working. We're now doing a similar study of the culture, the in essence, worship, faith, and spiritual practices culture of this congregation, and asking what are those entry points, what are those touch points, and how might the congregation enrich those entry points, those processes in such a way that young people, through the intergenerational involvement and the peer involvements in the congregation, might in fact be able to engage, or God engage them in ways that speak directly to their present experience, their questions of identity, their questions of belonging, their questions of meaning and hope, and so forth. And already, just the inquiry process has opened up new conversations and new excitement and hope in the congregation.
Great. Well, for those 5 case studies that you're working on right now, they're engaged fully in this process. But what about congregations around the country that, how can they get involved in the conversation, maybe not as a research rat, but as being in on the conversation and the learnings of what's going on at Vibrant Faith.
Yeah, thanks, Danica. That's a great question. We first of all want everyone to become research rats, so we'll just put that out there. We have all kinds of stuff on our new websites about looking for curious leaders, and on some level, I don't think you can be in ministry these days without having a new sense of curiosity about what is God up to, and where do we see God working in new ways, and are we following where the Spirit is leading? And so a part of us is with this move to put action research at the center of who we are, is asking a lot of people to get on board with becoming curious leaders is the word we're using. But then we also, our goal is to really move. We all know that there has been a lot of good research out there about the process of faith being formed in the last 20 years or so. And there's only so much of that has really had a direct impact on the practices of the church. And a part of our move here is to try to say, we've got to take what we learn and actually start creating the kind of change that will allow those things we know about how faith is formed to lead the way, to take the front end. So we are taking then the things that we're learning in research and the things that we already know in research, and we've created monthly webinars. We've created these Do What Matters events that are happening all over the country, and they're very inexpensive. But the goal is for people to take a couple days and just really look at their faith-forming processes that they're doing at their church, and to ask themselves, are we actually, with these things that we're doing and spending so much time doing, are we actually doing the things that we know make a difference and know matter for the process of faith being formed? So we're trying to constantly translate what we're learning in our research into, okay, so what are practices and what are new systems? And another thing we're doing, I don't know, I think the next slide will show it. We really want to kind of move conversation onto our website that has, and to create a whole community of curious leaders. And we think this is something that's just going to grow over the next couple of years. But we know that there are lots of people talking about these questions, and a lot of people who are looking for places where they can, on a regular basis, talk to other leaders about more than what curriculum are you using next fall.
Absolutely.
But to ask some of the bigger questions. And so we're creating this whole community of curious leaders and just kind of starting some conversations on there. It's something that we just hope will grow over the next year or so that people have a place where they can process some of this stuff, and that they can be reporting into the research process as well.
Awesome. Elizabeth and I are sitting here and shaking our heads viciously. I don't viciously is not the right word, but our heads might fall off because we think that the work that Vibrant Faith is doing is exactly the stuff that we sit around and talk about late at night at the Extravaganza, things that we're talking about with one another at our local youth ministry networks. All that kind of stuff. So to have a formal place or an informal formal place to get together and have the conversations regularly, it's really, really good. So
yeah, we've been pretty excited actually because the common thought out there is, nobody's going to have conversations anywhere but on Facebook. But we've got a mess of people that have signed up already, and they're from all over the place. It's just awesome. They're not all Lutheran. They're just kind of from all over the country and all over the denominational spectrum, and I mean that's really exciting for us. So we just now have to figure out how to keep the conversation going and to keep it real, and all the things that can happen in online conversations to keep those polite and Christ-like and all those kinds of things. But we're very excited about this being a whole new place where people can go and just talk about this stuff on a regular basis.
Great. That's so awesome. And we're coming up to the end of our time. So I Nancy, you and I talked a little bit. You will have Vibrant Faith people at the Extravaganza, yes?
Yes, there will be. We'll have a table there, and Rollie is actually going to be there, and so are 3 other people from our team. So we're looking very, very much forward to being able to have a lot of conversations there. And we also have a little research piece that we've got a couple people from our team that are going to be launching and asking questions of people at the Extravaganza.
Awesome. That'll be so great. So if people want to pick Vibrant Faith's brain, collective brain, they can stop by the table or chat with somebody who I assume will have a Vibrant Faith identifying piece on them somewhere.
Yes, we'll do that.
Okay, perfect. That'd be so great. Well, like I said, we're coming up to the end of our time, so we'll do some housekeeping things before we wrap it up. Next week is the Extravaganza 2015. Story is the theme, and there's over 1,000, well over 1,000 people who are attending, so that's super, super exciting. The program schedule is up. The workshops are posted. So you might want to head over to elcaymnet.org/e2015 to check out some of the details, the speakers, the musicians, all that good stuff is there. So we hope that we'll be seeing you and chatting with you next week at the E. Just a note about Third Tuesday, the archives have been updated, so we've got lots of good stuff there. If you like what you've heard here and haven't joined us before, you can check out all the ones that have come before this one. Next month, if you are taking kids or your congregation is taking kids or know somebody who's taking kids to the gathering this summer, join us for 3TC. There's going to be a youth gathering discussion panel. It'll be Kim Adams of the transportation team and Charlie Roberts of the community life team, and they'll be here and you can pick their brain about things you might be wondering about. Both of them will also be at the Extravaganza, but this will be a great platform for you to talk to them about all things transportation and community life in Detroit this summer. So we have reached the end of the moving sidewalk, and we hope that you'll say hello to us at the Extravaganza next week and join us back here next month with Kim and Charlie. We hope that you have a great day. Thanks, Rollie and Nancy.
You're welcome.